So yeah, Allie, if you don't mind reading that first page.
Okay, now?
Yeah.
Right, now. The Heath Fair, 1916 to 1984, by Esther Dickinson. The first Heath Fair, or gathering, was held in August 1916. It was sponsored by the Heath Historical Society under the leadership of the Mrs. May and Flora White. It was held on the Common at Heath Center with exhibits in Sawyer Hall. The following year it was moved to the Oak Grove on South Road. The fair was held here annually, except for 1 year during World War II, when all such gatherings were forbidden because of polio, until 1962. This grove was owned by Mrs. Ada Stiles, a descendant of Benjamin Maxwell, and rented to H.F. Dickinson until he finally bought it from Mrs. Stiles' heirs in 1946. When I first remember the fair, the exhibits were in the large white tent. The north side contained tables of farm exhibits, fruits, and vegetables. On the west side were displays of flowers, houseplants, and jars of canned goods. The south side was devoted to food, maple syrup, fancy articles, quilts, and rugs. 2 tables in the center were for youths. All exhibits were made or raised by the exhibitors, who must live in Heath. There was much friendly rivalry between neighbors. You want to go anywhere else? There's 8 pages of that.
Do the whole 8 pages, but we probably should do
The
it.
whole 8 pages.
So the fairgrounds were right here behind the house in the woods there?
Yeah. No, when we were kids, we could walk up there and get in free. But then I found out my father would pay for our tickets afterwards. We thought we were getting in for free. They were all of 50 cents, I think, at that time. It was only for a day and a half then. And then there was the first year, there was only 1 tent.
Yeah, well, our parents would make sure that the grounds were cleaned up, you know, and ready for bringing the cattle in and so forth. And then the day after, they would all go up and clean up, and we kids would go up and see if anybody dropped a few nickels around.
Right, that's awesome.
We used to have good parades when we were younger. There would be several floats.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So people really make floats.
Like the Ladies' Aid Society would put in a float, the church would put in a float, maybe the schools and individual families. The Ladies' Aid group would have a play and a dinner in the end of July quite often, but there were productions at Heath Fair in the evening too. Right. And then they'd have a short play, and then at 9 o'clock the square dance would start.
We all, it was so different then, we all had cattle. The kids would raise something and bring it there. We had horses. So there was a wonderful gymkhana. The parade had, they led the cattle in the parade and the horses in the parade, and now they have antique cars in the parade, so it does change. We had square dances a lot more than they have now. We danced in the hall, and so much that we had to dance in the street lots of times right outside of the hall.
It was so crowded.
Horse drawing was out on the road because there wasn't room, I suppose, inside what they call the fairgrounds.
Right.
In fact, we didn't know what horse draws were. No. My youngest ones, we were going to the horse draw, and of course he was quite the little artist, and he wondered what we drew with the crayons or what we had.
And I remember Mom would give us $1 in the morning.
Yeah.
And that was enough money for all day.
Right.
The ride was a nickel. And soda was 10 cents, I suppose. And,
right.
And so $1 took you all day long.
Wow.
David never spent his.
What was the ride, Steve?
It was one that Ralph Sumner used to run it. And it had a Model T differential right in the middle. and an electric motor. And you would just push a handle and it would tighten a belt, and it would just go around and around and around. And we thought it was the greatest thing.
Wow, that's awesome. A home